source of a few bucks there.
Can I ask?
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if you can all hear me, but to me, it looks like there's not even enough money to finish paying the town accountant for the next 7 weeks. Is that accurate? So,
That's correct. And
so where will those funds actually come from, or is he just not going to work?
We have already discussed paying the town accountant from the advisory committee reserve.
Okay, thank you.
And we're also very low in money for town council expenses as well. Yeah.
Well, we've had a discussion about both, and we look at this reserve. That's why we didn't hit the reserve, because we're going to need some funds for those purposes. Other departments, I mean, maybe I should just respond to questions. We have squeezed every department as hard as we can. And it's nickeling and diming, as you can see. In some cases, we cut $100. It does add up. Tax collector, same process with treasurer, assessors, tax collectors. You'll note there next to the assessors, I have $60,000 and the word overlay. The assessors are required by the state to set aside money in case they have to give abatements to residents who contest their taxes, their valuation. And every year there are requests for abatements. They grant some of those requests, they fight others, and so we have to set aside a sum of money called an overlay for abatements, or just an overlay. In case they give out abatements, obviously there's taxes that we lose, and that offsets that. At the end of the year, if they haven't used up all of the overlay, it becomes an overlay surplus. And while this was not included in the budget for fiscal 14, I did ask the assessor's office, Luann, to check and see if there was a surplus. And there is a surplus, about 60. Is it still 60?
Yeah, we have 69, but 9,000 is attending ATV, so there is about 60,000
All right.
available.
So the process is that the town administrator has to write a letter to the assessors requesting that they provide whatever surplus they have available for the operating budget. We're going to play that out and add $60,000 here that wasn't budgeted. You want to go to the next page. Notice we print on 2 sides now. Where am I at? Oh yeah, I got to rip it apart. Yeah. The next department. I'm going to start with fire EMS. Again, EMS has the advantage of an off-budget account. Whenever a department has an off-budget account of some kind, a separate fund, it's okay. They can use those funds. I just had a conversation with Jackie, and she's going to use some of the off-budget money that they have available for the library to help keep that operation going. Our shortfall is with the general fund. So if you've got a trust fund, if you've got a revolving account, if you've got some other accounts that are not part of the general fund, spending those monies is not a worry or a concern of us right now. Obviously, if you spend those monies to operate, you're going to have fewer of those monies for special projects. And oftentimes those accounts are set up to do special things, not just to pay salaries and operate. So EMS and fire, and basically we're cutting back on the salary account, as well as some expenses. Inspections, the same. Animal control. Now, there was an agreement with the city of Gardner to provide animal control. The town has loaned, is it a loan? Yes, loaned a vehicle to pick up dogs and other animals. And the cost to the town in the contract was $21,000. It went up to $25,000. In that contract, it says that any kind of change like that has to be announced ahead of time and given approval by the towns that are part of the regional animal control operation. Well, they didn't tell us that they were going up on it. And
And they
so
admitted it, which was also a
What?
mistake. And they admitted that they did,
And they
which is
admitted
also
it.
a mistake, yeah.
And I had a conversation with Mayor Hawk, and I just said, we weren't prepared. Frankly, it looks like we are. I hadn't looked at the exact appropriation at 25, but we were intending 21, and from the discussion with the board, that we weren't prepared for that. We were prepared to pay 21,000. I told them that's what we're going to pay. We didn't hit that account because it's not clear that that's how it's going to end up. I mean, we're going to be jockeying back and forth on that for a while. Where's the chief? Chief Whitaker has brought to me another option for the town for animal control that looks pretty good and costs less than $20,000. So we're going to be pursuing that in the new year. Civil defense, forestry, and tree trimming. I mean, that in the hierarchy of services, that's something we can do without for 7 weeks. Communications department, and here's an example. It's very hard to make cuts to a department like that because they're the ones that dispatch police, fire, water, sewer, light. When you have an emergency, that's the number you call. We lay them off and we can't dispatch for emergencies. So it doesn't work in a department like that. In fact, in some ways, dispatch is the most necessary department or the least flexible department that you have in terms of trimming. We did cut training because we can do that. Pest control, took half of that account. Technology, as you can see, problem with the technology budgets is that they are not flexible and largely spent here. Town clerk, there's no assistant town clerk at this point, and that's also a result of the hiring freeze, so we were able to take that money. Conservation Commission planning, I mean, if you go through this, it's an interesting exercise because you can see the realities that we face in terms of trimming back on costs. A lot of these costs can't be just dispensed with. Town buildings, obviously, there are things that we don't have to do to town buildings in the last 7 weeks, so we pretty much cut those accounts. Town report, I guess we could dispense with that for a while, but that's already spent, is it not? Yeah. Gasoline and vehicles. You'll see that the gas account is overspent and the diesel account is underspent. Reason for that was accounting, not that we used a lot of gas and didn't use any diesel. This is kind of another example of some of the stuff that the people are now trying to work with and clean up. They use one account to pay for both diesel and gas. And now they're going to shift the monies around. And in the discussion that I had with Bud, there'll be $31,000 remaining that we can cut in both accounts. They have a tank full of diesel, they have a tank full of gas, and this will allow to buy one more tank of gas before the end of the year because we still have vehicles moving. Even though public works vehicles aren't going to be driven, we have police vehicles and so forth, so there's a continuing demand for gasoline. Police, the night shift is going to go away for 7 weeks. It's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. No option, as far as I can tell. You know, every department has to lose part of their services. Where am I missing? Oh, highways. The highway department took a major blow, as you can see. And I'd like to commend them for the way they handled this crisis. They took the initiative themselves. They came into the office and said, here's what we can give you back. It means that the services like street sweeping, line painting, and so forth are not going to happen until the new fiscal year. So you see the cutbacks that are involved there. It's quite an amount of money. It's over $100,000 if you take all of their accounts. Solid waste, obviously that not matter. Parks and cemeteries we've just talked about. We are hoping to be able to make some adjustments there to preserve more of that service. Board of Health, you'll see in the fiscal 15 budget, again, I don't think we need to talk about it now, but in the fiscal 15 budget, the advisory board is recommending some fundamental change. I don't know if it'll be adopted, but we'll see. Right now, at least, we're cutting back on both the office salaries and the salaries for the agent. Council on the Aging also taking significant hit. The building will stay open. No staff. Right? Just you.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Volunteers.
Our services will remain. I'm very lucky that my staff were all willing to take on some sort of cuts, so we shouldn't have much of a reduction in services, but yeah.
Yeah, Bethany came to me and offered to make the cuts too. Didn't have to impose them. In other words, they were, the department head tried to work it out with us. Veterans benefits, we may have an issue there that we have to change. I think we probably do. Obviously, veterans benefits are increasing. We've got more vets coming back. We've got more vets in need, given the economy. And so that bill, or that budget is going to go up. Fortunately, we get very significant 3/4 reimbursement from the Commonwealth after the fiscal year. I haven't done this in the most organized way. What have we missed? A library. Again, substantial cuts. We are determined to keep the library open, and they do have some off-budget money that they can use in order to preserve the basic service, recreation. Again, closing that out for the next 7 weeks. Other culture, recreation, no money there, but as you can see, if the $100 was available, we made the cuts. And then finally, debt service. The only area where we have a little bit of flexibility is short-term interest on our debt. In other words, when you issue a note, a bond anticipation note, or a revenue anticipation note, it's usually for 3-4 months, sometimes 6 months. You got to pay interest on that. So that's interest on short-term debt. The interest on long-term debt basically is on bonds. And that is the most important item in the budget in terms of the importance of making sure that your payments are on time and that you don't default. Most of the larger cities that have had severe problems got into those problems because they couldn't pay their debt. New York City in the 70s couldn't pay their bonds, defaulted, crisis. Orange County, California. There are other places where, Detroit, obviously, you don't make payments timely on your bonded debt, and it's big trouble. So that's, and I hope you don't walk away with the impression that we are going to default. We are not. It is simply not going to happen. If we have to lay everybody off in the town government to make that payment, we have to make the payment. So default is not threatened here. We will make the payment. But we would like to be able to do this in a less harsh way than laying everybody off. So, what else did I miss? Streetlights. Yep. Cut $10,000 out of the streetlights account.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
What are you actually going to determine who loses their jobs?
That decision will be made based on contracts, obviously, that we have to abide by, and the decisions will be ultimately be made by, obviously, the department heads. So the select board will not be saying you have to lay off this person, that person, or even necessarily how many people have to be laid off. That's the number that needs to be cut from salaries, and whatever has to happen for that to happen, the department head needs to do. And those layoffs would be effective Monday, right?
Monday. Yeah, the department heads today asked if we could take the line item cuts and put them in a lump sum at the bottom line, thereby giving the department head some flexibility to decide how to implement the cuts with a goal of the least impact upon personnel. And so I've agreed to do that. So what you see here is what we'll do at the town meeting, but we're going to allow department heads to move the line item cuts around to accommodate how they think it could be less harsh on personnel.
Yes, ma'am.
It was mentioned today at the department head meeting, there's a lot of people at highway that have vacation and personal time. These people don't lose their jobs. They cannot use that time during the furlough. They're going to have to carry it over to FY15.
A very good point. We need to.
FY15 for the ones that are going to be permanently laid off.
Yes.
Will be paid out of FY15 for that time.
Very good point. I did mention that if the Board of Selectmen approved this tonight, we would make a request of the board to allow employees to move benefits forward into 50. You have a week's vacation that you haven't used, added to your fiscal 2015 vacation as a way of trying to cushion the blow.
But the ones that are laid off still have time. They're not going to get paid until after July.
Well, we've talked about that. We have to figure out a way. We have an obligation. Same with unemployment comp. One of the reasons why I like to allow department heads to move cut money around is that it would have the least impact upon personnel, I would hope, which also is of benefit to the town because we would have fewer people claiming unemployment compensation as well. We don't like to lay people off, both because the town has a bare bones staff now, and secondly, because it's not in the interest of the town to do that financially, because there's a big burden that we're going to face with unemployment compensation in the next fiscal year.
Are there other questions? Yeah. Sorry, if I can let Diane go and then.
Yep. On paper, these are numbers, but out there, you're people. So I'm certain this is not easy for any of us, but if I could have, again, these are numbers. So to really know But if you wouldn't mind, I had asked this earlier, just at the department head meeting, I didn't really speak a lot, but I want people to understand like exactly, how each of your departments is truly impacted and how it will impact the town in the next 7 weeks. So, I see a sea of faces, which, how many people may have to go? I know that we stopped street sweeping. Does that mean that we're not filling potholes? I know that we had to, stop gasoline. So what does that mean for the equipment that's not running? And again, I would like the public to understand exactly what is not going to happen and exactly who is, not the exact people who will be affected, but, how many people will you be down?
Okay, what I've implemented, and I started it yesterday, or you have another question?
No, it's just having, because you're not at a microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll speak up.
Thank you.
Started yesterday morning, we pulled all our sweeping equipment off the road, we're about 85% done in the town. But we pulled it all off the road, all the equipment's been washed down, it's been put in the garage, and the doors are closed. The remainder of the highway department will become more like a fire department. We're gonna go out and put out a fire if it starts. Emergency calls only, we're gonna limit vehicles traveling on the road for the purpose of saving fuel and gasoline. So you won't see any heavy equipment out there unless it's an emergency. You might see a small pickup, highway department pickup truck to go out and take care of a call when the phone rings. We're gonna fill potholes as a call comes in. If it's deemed dangerous, we'll fill that pothole. You won't see us patching the whole entire road. Prior to this all coming down, we went out and we bought one 10-wheeler load of co-patch, 18 tons. We're gonna try to make that 18 tons last till the end of the year, answering only emergency pothole calls. Otherwise, I could put out 18 tons tomorrow morning. We wouldn't have any more money to buy more patch. So we need to conserve it. Tonight I asked the highway department to come be recognized. Paul McAuliffe, Mark Danielson, Mike Casey, Tim Casey, David Smart, Gene Fountain. I'm losing 4 full-time employees. 3 of them are here tonight. 1 I let go yesterday. 2 of my full-time senior people will be furloughed until July 1st. It's going to leave a highway staff of myself, the foreman, the mechanic, and the admin secretary. That will be determined at a later time when we can figure out hours and what we can do. So here's, and I apologize for being emotional.
No. But
Bethany, could you explain what will happen with the Council on Aging, please?
Sure. At first, I want to mention that it is the proactive decisions of all the department heads, especially the highway, and that is what is keeping the senior center open. I'm sorry. The additional guts that I proposed, and I was hoping that they'd be enough to keep us open, and it looks like, if you vote, that it will be. We are closing the food pantry to only 1 day a week. We're normally open Thursdays and 1 Saturday a month. That cuts Dot from 10 hours a week to 5. Our Meals on Wheels drivers had been paid 4 hours a day, giving them the flexibility and the time to spend time with each one of the clients that they serve. Maybe go into the house and visit with them, set up their meal, make sure they were doing all right, and report back to us if anybody needs some further care. They've been cut to 2.5 hours a day, which is basically like a drop and go scenario. I have eliminated, furloughed our bookkeeper in order to make it so that she didn't lose 100% of her 15 hours. I am very grateful to our dispatcher, Dawn. He was willing to cut his dispatching days from 5 to 4, allowing her to be a dispatcher on 1 day a week and retain 5 of her 15 hours. In order to do that, she'll be paid by Mart rather than the town, and there is a letter that I need you guys to sign that I can turn into Mart to make that happen. In order to help with the fuel issue, only one out of our fleet of vehicles is gassed and maintained by Mart. All the rest, including our Meals on Wheels truck, are gassed and maintained by the Highway Department. So in order to continue to conserve fuel like the Highway Department and every other department needs to, we have canceled all special day trips. We had a trip to the Tower Hill Botanical Gardens this month, that's canceled. We had a special shopping trip that's canceled. We will not be planning, we were going to go to Gloucester in June. We will not be doing any of that at the moment. I do want to tell people that the construction on the senior center is continuing. The Monty Tech students who are working on the plumbing, they're not going anywhere. We don't have to pay them. If we do run out of materials and they need more materials, the Friends group has talked about maybe stepping up and fronting the money so that that can go on, because having their free labor, of course, is a value that would be detrimental to lose. In addition to that, the committee is still going to continue to meet. They're still going to work on writing bids, posting bids, vetting contractors, all that work, so that when we have the go button pressed again, we'll hit the ground running. I'm expecting that our current situation is going to be about a 3, maybe 4-month setback for us, but it's okay, it's just a setback. We'll be all right. But again, I can't thank the other department heads enough. Our meeting today, even looking at these dire cuts, nobody was out for anybody's throat. Nobody was criticizing one department being cut and their department, and comparing things. I think everybody knows what needs to get done, and I can't thank my colleagues enough for how professional they've been.
Yes.
At the Board of Health, we're going to be open 2 days a week. I'll be in the office on Mondays. Phil will be in on Tuesdays. Every Tuesday for the rest of this fiscal year, I have to be in Worcester for the last course that I need to be qualified for the assistant health agent. That was a requirement when I was hired for that position, is that I would work towards this. And I have done it in 6 months' time. So I will be in the office on Mondays. I'll be in Worcester on Tuesdays. He'll be in the office on Tuesdays. And then on Wednesdays, he's going to be out in the field. He's going to reserve time because contractors will call him and he'll need to be out in the field. That's all we're going to be able to do. There's going to be a lot of things that are not going to be done. You've got a new restaurant coming into town that may or not be able to open when they want to open. He may be forced to retire early. Which is really not fair. I realize it is what it is. you know, as Diane said, you're affecting people's lives. That's all I'm going to say.
Did you have your hand up, Luann?
My question was, I know we've got temporary layoffs or temporary furloughs. Those people we're laying off as of Monday, is the town at least carrying their health insurances through July 1st? I mean, that's a big issue with people getting laid off.
Yes.
They are, either furlough or temporary.
We're fortunately able to do that because the money was set aside for that. You don't cut those accounts. It's funded.
Yes, I'm sorry.
When the news hit the newspaper about the library possibly closing, I had talked to the 3 people that work with me. Irene Young has worked at the library for 36 years. Ann Johnson volunteered to clean the library starting about 5 years ago, and was hired for 10 hours a week just before the hiring freeze went into effect. And Ralph Henshaw's been the custodian since I was probably 4 months old. And all 3 of them said, do whatever you need to do to keep this library open. If that means we're without a job, we're without a job. We don't want to see our library closed.
I got a question.
Jackie, I'm sorry, Mr. Councilman. Jackie, what does this mean for the library? And I know this is a huge impact for you. I think it's no different. The people who are affected most by this are having to take the harshest cuts, the Council on Aging, all of you employees. This is horrible. But the people who need the library, the people who need the services are not going to have access to them. But are your hours going to be reduced? Are you having to reduce some programs, like you need to remain open so that we don't have to close? Once we close, then none of you will be able to borrow books anywhere in the state. Templeton will be blacklisted. It's not just it's a library and it's a bunch of books. It's a lot. You have story hour in the mornings. There are more and more people coming to the library now because you can't afford the internet service. So they can go to the library and they can have that. And place for families, young families to go. And there's the story hour, which I've not been able to attend. But there are other things that will definitely be impacted, and hoping that we can keep that open. But how many hours do you have to be open?
The minimum in order to qualify for state aid for a waiver even is 20 hours
It's 20.
a week. So that's what we plan to do. Story hour was planned to end on the 21st. And I told a couple of my story hour families that I was gonna personally go in and open on the 21st, even if we were closed, and if the chief had to come and arrest me for trespassing, then that would be kind of cool to watch. We typically do a small summer reading program in the last few years. I don't know what I'll be able to do come July 1st, but we're gonna hopefully be able to live through the rest of this fiscal year and not close, and hope for better times ahead.
Thank you.
And if I could just real quick, just because I did some research on this today, because I had heard this because it seemed like severe, but it is 100% accurate that, and this is right from the state's website, that if a library closes, even for one day, due to a decimated or eliminated budget from the city or town and is certified in the state aid program at the time, the municipality is, as of the date of the closing of the library, decertified in the program. The library must then be open a full fiscal year, assuming it meets all other requirements, which would mean budget increases so that we can actually buy the materials that we need to be recertified, before being eligible to again apply for state aid to public libraries. So depending on the timing and duration of the closure, it could be 1 or more years. So even if you don't necessarily go to the library on a daily basis, as Diane said, you are blacklisted by being a resident of Templeton. You cannot borrow books at any library in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, because you will not be able to have a library card that is
Excuse me.
applicable.
We have a representative here. Why don't you file legislature now to do away with some of that stuff? like the libraries and stuff. That's the most important thing for kids. If Brewer and you holler about kids' education, and you're taking away the library for the kids. That's DNR report you said.
Yeah, let her respond.
What I'd like to do, Peter, is at the end, is give some perspective after I hear from all the department heads. So if I don't answer your question then, I'd like to come back, but I'd like to at least hear from everybody so I can synthesize the takeaways for the state to partner with the town. That's all right.
Yep, sure. Thank you very much, Representative.
I think that too, I don't see Alan here, but he is taking huge cut in his department and his hours. So, you know, unfortunately in this, all of you who may be, you know, even furloughed, and that may not be able to come back because you have families too.
I would like to follow up with Jackie. I have a question. You had brought before the board a question on how to change the purpose of your trust funds.
Yes,
Were you able to do that?
I was able to get a hold of contact with the Attorney General's office, and I filed the paperwork. I'm not sure how long that's going to take, but that will free up some trust funds that were created many years ago that had very specific language. Because they're under a certain amount of money, we'll be able to get that language expanded to use for other things like our network membership going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Chief Whitaker, you want to comment on the effect?
The police department will be losing 3 positions, 3 officers. We will close our 11 to 7 shift. The officers that we're losing, Brandon Amadon he was a school intern that started with us. He left earlier in the year, he went to Westminster. Sergeant Paul Swartz, a 30-year veteran, will be retiring in about 3 weeks. He's using some accumulated time up, and I'll be going myself July 1st. I met with the union today. They made huge concessions to help keep the rest of the officers working. What we plan to do is adjust our schedules, our shifts. You will have coverage from 8 o'clock in the morning to 2 a.m. in the morning. At 8 o'clock in the morning, myself or Sergeant Bennett will come in to make sure paperwork gets to court in a timely fashion. If there's a prisoner at the barracks that has to be brought over. Regular patrol shifts will start at 10 o'clock in the morning. 2 officers will come in. They will work 10 in the morning to 6 p.m. At 6 p.m., there will be 2 other officers that come in. They will work till 2 a.m. 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. At 2 a.m., we will close. Contacted the state police. They will assist us any way they can. You have to understand there's only 2 troopers out for about 20 towns. They will help us. The area towns will help us. We will also have in-town officers on call for emergencies. Dispatch will remain open. Your calls will get called. Your calls will get answered. Your emergency calls, someone will respond to them. You may not see the response time that you used to, but we will get to it. Any questions?
Chief
Yeah, the fire department has been blessed with the dedication of a lot of call volunteers for many years that do this. Originally, it was done for free. It's not been free for several years, but it's still pretty close to it. We call it a tradition of dedication. And the on-call officer at night does it for free. He takes on the responsibility of taking the call from the dispatch and going out and figuring out what needs to be done. If he needs to call out troops or if he can handle it himself. And that will be what we've done this year with the addition of a staff member during the day and the weekend FTEs, is we've been able to cover full-time, daytime coverage for the ambulance. We've increased our call percentages dramatically. As most of you know, we do about 1,000 calls a year, and about 70% of that is medical. We're looking to raise our level of service to ALS, improving the response times, improving the level of care that we have, and improving the revenue that comes from it. Our expected revenue is actually offset quite a bit by the ambulance receipts. As most of the people in town know, the receipts generate an improvement in the service. That's a good thing for us, and it's a good thing for the town. The impact of the reductions on the expense side are a total of over 23.5% since fiscal 12. Most of my costs are fixed costs, and it means that we're shutting things down. Things like SCBA bottles that need to be replaced. We've got 56 of them that we can't replace in 5 years. My plan was to start a policy of, replacing a few each year, but that's on hold. Ladder testing and some of the things that are required for the certifications that we're required to have to put people into the harm's way are on hold. It's not going to stop the dedication of the people that are on the department. They're still going to come out and assist you if you need it. The times, the effects, and the results may change a bit, but we're still here.
Are there any department heads that we've missed?
Yeah, planning board, we're just basically going to close the doors. We only have one employee, I think it's Carl down there. I'm going to monitor the phones, and if something important comes up, like somebody actually wants to do business in this town, by all means, we'll find a way to have a meeting. But other than that, all kidding aside, we're just going to leave the lights off till July 1. We have no choice. But I won't let somebody slip by that wants to come in this crazy town, okay?
Is there anyone else that I've missed, or?
I would just like to say, honestly, thank you to everybody. You all deserve a huge, more than a round of applause, and I honestly wish this could be different. Thank you.
Sure.
Very proud of Templeton. You see the character of people when it's tough, and it's tough. The day someone lets an employee go ahead of schedule, either for retirement or furlough or to separate a job, should never be easy, and it should be emotional. If it isn't, I don't think we're doing our job as leaders. So to the department heads, thank you for being good leaders, responsible leaders, and very compassionate. And that includes this group here and the new gentleman that's come to Templeton to help. I've been with you for 18 months as your state representative. It was clear to me when I came in, from a lot of people reaching out, there's been some very serious issues on financial management here and on collaboration and relationships. In the first meeting, when Sparrow was down and Dr. Miller, we were looking at getting school property for the elementary with Senator Brewer. We can deliver improvement on the finances, but we will never have a vibrant community unless the relationships improve here and the culture changes. And that's what we talked about in the hallway outside of Senator Brewer's office in the State House. And what I see here, we didn't get here overnight. I wasn't even in the state then. On some of the financial issues and then the collapses and some of the fighting and drama. Okay, that was yesterday. Where Templeton is, and I've seen, working closely and trying to give space but stay close enough, is just turn the corner. You are talking, we're getting professional analysis, we're getting tough questions asked, okay? We're rebuilding block by block what will make Templeton great again, okay? It's going to take probably another 2 years here, okay, with everybody working together. I spent 45 minutes on my commute to Boston this morning with Ken, asking the same questions you asked. Why did they have a fall overriding? We're back here with another one. Why? How did we miss that? And as you heard from Bob tonight, there's really valid reasons why. And there's full transparency from the leadership of the town to educate people. My request to everybody listening on TV and when you talk to people in coffee tomorrow is you build confidence in this plan for people in Templeton. We don't undermine it, and we don't say, here we go again, because it isn't here we go again. We're on a climb and we're on the right path. I stopped to get a cup of coffee at the kitchen garden when it's a good day to go to Boston, and I could hear the questions about how did we get here. Okay, each of us got an explanation tonight that would cut mustard with anyone if they want to listen, if they want to be part of the solution. Okay, in my humble opinion, I don't have much time or patience anymore for people who want to bitch and whine, excuse me, God, on energy when we have important work to do. And you can see the character of people in the cuts that they're willing to do and the teamwork they're willing to do. So
So we need to stand tall in these tough moments, and I was sharing with pardon me, I forgot your name, young lady on the end. Holly, I was sharing with Holly when the meeting started. In difficult times, there's two choices. You come together to get it better, or you don't come together and let it fail. And my challenge to all of us, and myself included, is to come together and get it better. So some reflections on what to do. I was texting to find out where the legislation is, Pete, while we're sitting here, and it's filed tomorrow by Brewer, Andrews, and Goby, so we can speed it up. I've got a request to talk to Jerry Perry after you do, to say we need to do whatever we can do. Because Templeton has shown they deserve every compromise that can be made to support what you're doing. You know, when I came to town, I'm a tough love manager. I spent a lot of time in the private sector. I stood against in town hall, spending another taxpayer dime the first year I came back to town, because I didn't believe we were spending taxpayers' money right. People were pissed off with me, the library, and I said, hey, I'll spend a dime as soon as I know the first ones were spent right. Okay, and what's happened here with this analysis in the department head work, you have shown you are doing what's necessary to build confidence and get people then, I hope, to go to the polls and go for a bit more taxpayer money when it's time coming up. You know, I listened Monday night to what you did. I listened to the last one. You're taking tough calls. The boiler, the school, okay, the school new building, elementary. You know, the school budget, you're no different than probably 5 other towns I have where the school budgets are pushing so much pressure on the other services, okay? And what we've got to do is continue to really look aggressively at keeping our belts tight and looking for improvement. We asked for $200,000, I gave you the wrong number, for the budget on the House side for the senior center construction. I didn't get it in the House. The Senate will take that out and take a bite at it. What I will do, based on tonight's conversation, is go back perhaps and see, and if you can help me, Chief, you know, what is a chunk for those canister replacements. Let's put an amendment in on the Senate side, see if we can get some of those canisters done. If we don't need 200 grand asked from the Senate, okay, but let's ask 200 plus, all right, and see, because we do have a chairman of Ways and Means. We've got one more budget in Mr. Brewer, okay, and we've got Stan Rosenberg coming behind as president. And it's clear, and they know it from me, our areas have not gotten money that we have needed for a long time, and that's over. So I don't want us to not ask. We're going to go in, fight for the canisters, fight for the senior center. The other pieces I listen, I think veterans benefits is not a quick fix, but I'm going to go follow up on. Is there any progress that the state can make perhaps to help either pay in the current year or add percent? And it takes time, you know, it is a lot slower than any of us would hope. But we'll go follow up on that. I would like us to continue to be creative. So MART, okay, MART is well-funded, and we've got good management over there. So if we can ask for help on transportation, even including once in a while taking a trip for the seniors to have a break, reach out to MART, tell them Andrew sent you and see what we can do, okay? We were chatting on using our friends in the Worcester County Sheriff's Office and in the Franklin County Sheriff's Office coming in. We have to move for a building. We've got gentlemen over there that are trying to rebuild their lives that are incarcerated. It's very helpful when they come over and help the community, okay? So we're going to need to ask. We're not very good at asking for help outside our towns. Okay, we got to do better, okay? This is the time. The other thing I'd ask us to do, particularly the concern with drugs, suicide, and youth, having a month where we don't have appropriate youth programs at the library, that's a concern, okay? And so I would ask, you know, that maybe perhaps you talk to Dr. Miller. Well, all our schools are trying to push community service of their staff, okay, of their students, all right? And they've got a decent budget here, okay? And they have some time off in June, a little bit, maybe in July. So what I'd ask you to do is to ask the school to flow over to the library maybe on some of those, because we're a community. And we know the condition of our youth. If they're not challenged and kept busy, they're going to make choices that are really, really bad. Okay, we can't afford that even for 7 weeks, okay? So those are my takeaways. The other thing I'll offer to the individuals that are losing employment, okay? I spend a lot of time in HR. I can write and coach you on your resumes, and I can connect you with the employment services that we have, that enough people don't do. So you're to call my office, ask for me, and I will help you network and get you into shape for your next job, okay, personally. So you need to do that. The other thing we all need to understand, I don't know many people that can afford to miss 1 week's paycheck. Not 1 week since 2008, okay? And let's not forget the compassion and the stress that's going on. So a little bit extra dig to check in on your neighbors, okay? Because when do people make bad decisions? When they lose their job, when they have a divorce, etc. We've got some people losing their job. We cannot afford anybody to be alone and not know they have a help if they need it. And I don't care if you call my office 24/7 on my cell phone. That's my office right here. I will do my best to be there. But you're closer, shorter commute, be there, okay? I'll help on the jobs. So really proud of Templeton. It's tough. You know, I'll be at the town meeting. I do want us to look at, can we dig a little deeper with all due respect when the next override vote comes up? Because, you know, when I look at the analysis, you know, I'll call the line the best way I see it. But I think there's a little bit of room that we could do there. You know, we've got good leadership, thank you. Department heads, good leadership, good citizens, an excellent town. And this will make us better. But go back to solid standards on finances and the best relationships of respect and putting our energy into positive stuff and not fighting, okay? We don't have time for that. So that's my perspective. Ken, Julie, you know where to find me, and you just pick the phone up, okay? Thank you.
Yes.
Denise, what was the purpose of Proposition 2.5 in the state budget?
Yeah.
To restrict the towns on spending?
Well, it's interesting, you know, 2.5, the question is, what was the purpose of Prop 2.5? And there's people better equipped in here to answer it than me, because I've only been in public service for 3 years. But as a citizen, in fact, I told a person today, it was an Irving person, I was on the finance committee, and I was going through their town meeting results from last night. Where did they land? And they're one of our more blessed communities because of their business revenues. And I said to her, I said, whoever thought of 2.5, it was a good idea, because what my humble opinion is 2.5 put throttle, you know, or to not allow the taxes to go up so fast. And if there was a need to go up faster than 2.5, then any citizen in town can do an override, right? So humble opinion is to slow down the spending and the thirst on taxpayers. And you know, that's really important, because it's one thing when there was prosperity pre-2008, money was flowing, and then boom, you know, crash, Great Depression here. And it's hard. So you can't turn these behemoth, you know, you're what, $14 million or $16 million budgets, 18 to 36 billion. You can't swing those that quick. So that at least moderated the spending. And to me, it's a good thing that we had that cap, or we could be in severe straits. So I think the intent was to really slow down and get more citizens involved. And when they want to grow more than 2.5, they come and they discuss it. Because you look at most wage growth, you know, it's a good year when your wages go up 2.5% for the last 8. You know, there's many organizations that I've talked to since I came in office, 5, 6, 7 years without a pay raise. We're just starting to inch back. In some cases, not all. We're losing several jobs tonight. Okay, we're not even holding. So that's my opinion. I don't know if someone wants to add.
Yeah, 2.5 restrictions for the previous year's budget, like I think it was 11,400,000. 2.5% of that's 285,000. That override last year is going to be about $1 more increase. Well, that same dollar increase gives us, if we didn't have 600,000, was against 285,000. And we could do a lot if we did $2 increase, it would be 1.2 million. I think the time now is to, I think we're very responsible on raising the tax rate. We're not going to go wild spending. but 2.5 restricts us from doing that.
No, you take an override vote, and you go and take an override vote, and, you know.
That doesn't always work. just-
No, but that's why we have to get out and educate people, give them data so they have confidence that the money's being well managed, and that when there's a need, people will then show up. But people have to be engaged to understand what is being managed well and how to go forward. You know, since I moved back to Massachusetts, my personal income and my personal real estate tax has gone up $5 a thousand. It's projected to go up another $3. That's pretty similar to Athol, okay? And we're starting to hit $20 a thousand. $20 a thousand, we can't afford. Okay, people won't be able to sell their houses. That's $750 more. And $750 is at least a tank and a half of heating fuel. When we have seniors and people challenged with livable wages, they can't heat their homes. Okay, the feds are defaulting on the state to give us fuel. So, you know, when I look at Templeton, even though it's gone up, I think Ken was taking me through the numbers today, ballpark $3, you know, another 48 cents coming. I think we got a little bit more room in Templeton to, after people vet the numbers, look at the commitment of people, the departments, the teamwork, the need, right? Summer programs, et cetera, say, all right, we can go up more. I hope that next override is well positioned, and I hope personally it gets passed, okay? Because you hear what is happening. So that's kind of the intent, and you know, it's going to require people explaining and you know, not get into these side conversations that go nowhere, right? You know, and I spent probably an hour at the fair in Orange when my assessors told us we're going to go to $20. I said, Orange can't afford $20 a thousand. Seniors, $750 can't. Okay, how do we moderate and back up? And it's a tricky one because when I came into office, I thought local, state, and federal were a team. Well, you know, we're working to do better at that. Right? We really are. We've got to evolve our government. So it is important when the local folks, they look at a partner, in Brewer and myself, and Congressman McGovern, et cetera. That's why we are working our tails off to create jobs, living wage jobs in this district. So people can stay here and work, they can pay their taxes and have good school systems, right? But without those jobs, those fundamental jobs, and second, without our fair share of state money. You know, we just passed last week, Chapter 70, school funding formula, to be finally reviewed after 20 years. 20 years of inequity going to the higher income districts, Newton, Wellesley, whatever. I'm sorry. It's time to balance some of that. So these are some of the things we're working on, and the only reason we're working on it is because you all are surfacing them, right? We're willing to work on it together, and we're going to dig until we get it where it needs to be. So I don't want to take up more time than I probably should here, okay?
At this time, I will accept a motion regarding budget versus actual reductions that have been presented to the board this evening.
I would make a motion that we adopt the proposed budget reductions that Mr. Robbins presented, and that we continue to fine tune it to make the payments as soon as we can, but I think we should move forward with this plan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any more questions from the board?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out also that we received an email from Mr. Markle today. I think that we're very lucky to have him here, and has helped us as leaders be able to lead our way through the muck and mire. And he felt that because there were such drastic cuts to everyone, that